So of course, networking is definitely a thing to do, but also it's just being able to identify key influential players that align with your core values. Basically saying, charging extra for payment plans is wrong, because at the same time you might be right from the challenge, but also you may be wrong from the challenge, but you've learned something, you've got the truth. And that's
Yeah.
why I always want to have deep conversations.
Well, welcome back, Taylor. Welcome to the podcast. This is, I believe, episode 8. So you're still in early doors. So appreciate you coming on. And we were just talking before recording, actually, that we haven't really had a chance to properly connect in this space. So this is kind of one of the first times we're face to face, same as some people in the audience as well, meeting you. So I guess let's just kick it off really lightly with, giving a brief intro on you whatever you feel like you want to share, like, if people are looking at Taylor, what do they see, what do they know? So we'll start there and go from there, really.
Yeah. Well, as you've just heard for the last couple sentences, probably the British accent is the main thing people know me for. It's like the guy with the Kentish accent, really. But aside from that, of course, mainly for appointment setting, that's been the main thing that I've been known for on Facebook. So I've been teaching appointment setters, helping companies with this, helped a couple of clients on their processes, and also having done appointment setting myself and closing as well, which I'm now a part of. It's about 2 years, 9 months that I've been in the online
Oh,
space. So it's been a hell of an experience, and I've learned so much about myself, failed a bunch,
mm,
succeeded in a bunch of ways, my own personal view. I mean, success is different to everybody, but
yeah.
it's been a heck of a journey. So that's, I guess, the best summary I can provide you with there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember when you first got that background and that you started posting the pictures of when you were doing the wall out and everything. So that's one of the first things I remember you for, actually.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
I think that's the only thing a person's ever said about is the background and what I'm known for there. So okay, fair enough. Might have to do an upgrade.
no, it's good, man. It's good. I like it. I like it a lot. But no, that's awesome. Well, again, appreciate you jumping on. You do a lot with appointment setting, right? And I've seen that you've started like training people and building out. Like, have you built out a course yet, or is it just kind of like training you doing, or what do you do with that side?
Yeah, fully built it out now. Because I
Oh,
think what I'm seeing often is business owners want appointment setters. They have actually good offers. There's good offers out there for appointment setters, but I come across a lot of them, but the quality is just not there. The skill set standard, the way that I'm being communicated to, it's just not up to par. So
mm,
I've just figured that with appointment setting, there needs to be a level up in the style of communication, because appointment setters and opportunities, they will become more scarce as far as outbound, and DM setting as well is going to become, I'm sure, more automated. So the role of
right.
the inbound setter in these next few years is going to be so important, and that requires very
Mm.
good communication skills. So yeah, that's a bit danced around the direct question, but yes, I have built out the course, and there's some other things coming as well.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Do you so yeah, because obviously there's the AI and automation and all that side. Like, has that has that played into like your desire to help people, learn better skills and everything? Then has that been like a bit of a catalyst on, getting you started, or do you see that being a big impact on the industry, or just like it's a, you know, uh, not a massive impact, or what? What do you feel on that?
I think the introduction of AI has been a good thing. It's actually weeded out the people who can communicate like a real human being and those that just use scripts, right? Because that's what AI is. It is a generated script, and it's so easy now to tell what is, who's using AI and who's not.
Mm,
And I think, if anything, it's probably given us a bit of a realization as appointment setters that those who are still wanting to be SDRs, appointment setters, or use this as a springboard, they'll need to humanize their process a lot more and just really level up the skills. So,
yeah.
don't get me wrong. I don't think anybody comes into the industry like, yes, I want to be an appointment setter. That's all I want to do. And that
Mm,
is the case for some people, but very rarely is it. So,
yeah.
but I think at least if you're going to be in the role, perform in it, do very, very well, and give yourself a great foundation for closing.
Yeah.
That's the reason behind it, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Do you, like I've noticed, because when I don't, how did I'll start with this. So when I joined the industry, it was it was actually just over 3 years ago now, but I managed to I came in without meaning to, and then I just ended up on
Right?
an
Yeah.
offer as a closer, right? So I didn't know the whole space until I was already in
I
it.
see.
But it does feel like setting gets a bit of a rep as a transitional role sometimes for
Of
people.
course.
But
Yeah.
I also feel like it's one of the most important roles because it's the first face or voice or message that someone sees, right? So do you feel that there's been a bit of like an oversight historically from the industry of like, let's not worry about the setters too much. Everyone's going to be a closer, so just focus on them, and that's kind of where you're trying to fill the gap, or
Yeah, I think everybody looks at closing as like the money, right? At the end of the day, the marketing of the high ticket space has shown, well, and I got this from Dan Locke. That's how I was introduced to this.
right?
But it's,
Yeah.
oh, take a few calls a day, make 10K a month, hardly working, and you're going to be on the beach and you'll be happy. That's
Yeah.
that's what's been marketed to everybody. And so it's all about closer because it sounds cool to be a closer. Doesn't
Mm,
sound cool to be an outbound SDR by any means, appointment setter. It sounds like you're being devalued massively,
mm,
right? But I think if we look at it from a business perspective, the importance of it is crucial, right? If,
yeah.
for example, I was to throw you out of your offer now and you were to start your own thing, the likelihood is you're probably at least going to, yes, do some marketing, but you're going to do some outbound as well. That's a
Yeah.
requirement. So you're essentially, the way I like to say it is you're more of an entrepreneur. You're building the
Mm,
business up, right? From literally its very core, right? Reaching out to people, keeping them engaged. You are the very first person that the prospect will speak to. So how you are literally determines their view of your company. So
mm,
important.
yeah.
And the analogy that I like to use of appointment setters is like the relationship between Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, right? Everyone
Okay.
loves Michael Jordan. He's such a G, but Scottie Pippen, like without him, he would not have got as many points and maybe even not as many championships, Michael
Mm,
Jordan, without Scottie. So I
yeah.
call Scottie Pippen, it's the appointment setter role, right? The
Yeah.
assistant. And
That's
it's so, so
interesting.
important. You can't have Batman without Robin sometimes.
Hmm.
Similar thing there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. Pippin. That's a name I haven't heard for a while. That's taken me back to my youth. Love it.
Yeah, it makes
No,
me
that's
sound old actually. I'm only
yeah.
25.
No, that's good, man. So, but at the same time, I do think I've seen anyway an increase in people that don't necessarily want to close, but do feel that's where the money is, right? But there's just like I don't like I don't know. I don't know if they don't want the pressure or whatever they see as the actual close, but love talking with people. And I think setting does give you an amazing opportunity to, because like you said, right, if you do a really good passover, the closer's not really got to do much, but you've had a really big impact, and some people love that. Like,
Yeah,
so for
100%.
those sort of people and people just getting started, like, what would be like your, I know it's not an easy question to ask, but like, what's like your kind of take on how people can get involved into setting initially from like ground zero, right? If you've got someone who's like, I like the space, I don't want to be a closer yet or even ever, but I want to get involved, like, how would you say they should like, traverse those obstacles?
I think it's one of the best ways to get your foot in the door because oftentimes, if you are somebody who, yes, values security, and you will, when you come from a job, you're transitioning into the high ticket space. Yes, you are operating as a service provider, a business owner, but leaving that employee mentality it's a long term
Mm,
thing, right? It takes a while to detach from that. So going into appointment setting is like a nice, simple transition into it and getting used to entrepreneurship.
mm,
And that's, of course, most of the times for a pretty decent set of role, you'll get a base salary, but it will give
mm,
you the fruits of what it's like to earn commissions and give you that motivation of like, damn, I'd love to be able to do this for, maybe a commission only setter role or, being a closer,
mm.
commission only full time. And that's like, it gave me a lot of confidence in that, like, there's a lot to gain from this industry.
Yeah.
Another thing as well is that it's the perfect place to understand the offer that you're in is by doing appointment setting. You're understanding the quality of the leads because you're reaching out to them. You're understanding your avatar and your client a lot better, and how you articulate yourself and how often you speak with people
Mm,
improves your sales skills. And there's nothing that beats, 100 outbounds a day. And yes, you'll speak to 20, 25 people through pickups normally,
mm.
but that's going to be way more than speaking to 4 or 5 people in a day over the phone, where your anxiety levels are probably going to be very high if
Yeah.
closing is your first gig. So the way it builds up your
Yeah.
confidence is probably the best thing. I started off with DM setting, And I
Okay.
would say DM setting is probably one of the most pure forms of communication
Mm,
because you're literally seeing live how your communication is going. How well did this person answer the question? And you can scroll back and look through what you
mm,
did well, what you didn't do so well. It's the best way to get feedback on your current skill set level.
mm.
So I think
Yeah.
oftentimes when we look at calls, yes, you can do call reviews for closing. You can see your body language, your tonality, but over text, where people have very, very short attention spans, they've got text messages, emails, short reels on 6 different social medias that they have on their phone. If you can keep their attention and keep them engaged in a conversation with all those distractions,
Mm.
that's a skill set and a half. That if you learn that well, that's incredibly useful. And you're going to have to DM as a closer anyway. Send outbound text reminders, post call, pre call, emails as part of it as well. So it's
Yeah.
invaluable. That's yeah, so many reasons. There's more, but those would be the main things I'd say as to why it's so important and a great place to start, especially as it was for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's huge. I think again, I didn't know about it. Like, I know it sounds naive, but I didn't know about any of this space. I just kind of fell into it. But looking back, one of my regrets is that I didn't set first. Because, like you said, right, if I've got in a week when you first start as a closer, let's just say you have 15 calls. So you got 15 people, 65% show rate. So you're looking at like eight live calls, nine live calls, something like that. So your messaging and your outreach and everything, you can only do that many reps. But when you just said that, I've not even considered the fact that if you were messaging like 100 people, like how much quicker your skill level would go up. And that is one of my biggest regrets because my copywriting or whatever you want to call it, like that style of outreach though, has just it's never been at that level that it could have been. And I think that's a great place to start. So I think it's a huge asset to the industry for sure. Um, how would you say people could look at getting into the industry from a setting role? Like, I know it may just be like networking and things like that, but if you were looking at like, right, I want to become ideally a DM setter to begin with and kind of break into the industry, what's kind of like the best like kind of things to look for or kind of look out for in that instance?
I think you kind of asked a bit about that earlier. So sorry if I weren't direct with the answer. I trail
Okay.
off. This is when you speak to a salesperson, we're the worst people to communicate with, honestly. Yeah, so I would say as far as getting into it, it's all about, of course, well, I would say learning from people and being around people that have the influence. Like, I don't
Mm,
just want to network with everybody, right? I think
yeah.
that's the trouble is people go, oh, networking's important, but with who,
Yeah.
right? And there's a way to get into the door of those people and actually, those influential people who will want to speak with you, getting them to be open about it. It comes from planting seeds, right? Liking their content, sharing, making a comment that's valuable that helps them to lift up their brand. Right. At the end of the day, people will always want to do something for you if you do something for them that in turn
Mm,
gives them a bit of a return, whether that's a social capital return or a financial return. Like, for example, referring them an actual client is probably the biggest thing you can do for someone. They're indebted
mm,
to you, not, well, not financially, but they
yeah.
feel like they definitely do want to do something because you've given them a financial return. So, of course, networking is definitely a thing to do, but also it's just being able to identify key influential players that align with your core values.
Mm,
For example, Sales Sniper was like my dream company when I first got into the space. I thought everyone was raving about Sales Sniper. I thought this is amazing. Like for me, I was bought into the hype because everyone was serious. There was about development, extremely driven. I wanted to be in that kind of environment. So for me, what I did is I looked at their two groups, the Sales Revolution for seventh level and the Closing Code group for Sales Sniper. And I
mm,
thought, what is important to these guys? I looked at their podcast, I checked out their content, and I realized there were some common patterns as to what they found was important and what they liked in
mm,
sales reps. So I posted content within the Closing Code group. I, of course, invested into their mentorship to show that I was serious,
yeah.
doing role plays. I wanted to learn their style, be brought into their system. But then I posted content that, because they were very humorous guys. So I made like humorous content, or I promoted more of like how to get into their weekly role plays. So it
Mm,
enabled more clients to come into their funnel. And as I was posting
interesting.
more content, I gathered the attention of Matt Ryder. He was loving the content. The CFO Marco Cortese, who I had the interview with. It was the easiest interview I've ever done. Very straightforward. He was like, "Right, you're in. It's easy." And then there was the CEO as well, James Sackle, who enjoyed the content as well. So through that, I got the attention of all the key players. And
Mm.
from there, doing the interview, like I said, it was the easiest thing I did. 10, 15 minutes I was in. Yes, I did do a role play still, but I was already in the company at that
That's
point.
impressive.
So it's like, yes, just being very, it's almost, it sounds a bit weird, but you have to kind of be a stalker about it. Who are you paying attention to and just communicating the way that they like, you need to communicate and be ultimately. But don't force it if they're not aligned with your values. Go to someone who does. That's
Yeah.
important as well.
That's interesting. Because it's it's doing it with intention, isn't it? That's basically what you're saying there. It's like going right, these align with me. So I guess one step before that is find out what your goals and your values are. Then kind of find
Yeah.
out who aligns with that, but be intentional with it rather than like you said, just some people just go and network or don't really know what it means and just message people and just do random things. But
Yeah.
that's
Of course.
a very nice like way to look at it and go, cool, what are they aligned with me? What can I impart back into them and go from there? That's impressive, man. I mean, it's no wonder you stood out because not a lot of people are doing that at all, let alone back then as well,
No.
right?
No, and don't get me wrong. There's people. I'm seeing more salespeople post content now, which is great,
Mhm.
right? Like it's good to see, but oftentimes you can tell which one's washed up copywriting from ChatGPT and which one's
Yeah.
genuinely, oh, I learned something, I got this value, this is what I did, and
Yeah.
you can just tell the difference massively with the engagement,
Mhm.
right? And yes, AI is very important, but the human side is like it's top. It's good. I don't think it will be beaten. And I may be wrong in a few years' time. I'll put my hands up if I am. But for now, it's very important.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, I think setting's a great place to start. And it sounds like obviously with your, your coaching side of it, like helping people get into it. I mean, just that story alone holds a lot of golden nuggets for a lot of people. So I can only imagine the amount that they can get from working with yourself. So that's huge. And I think it'd be a great place for anyone to start by the sounds of it. And I've been so being a closer and they're a sales manager, I know the importance of setters that are good and actually, work well and put the right sets up and not just take the easy way out a
Yeah.
lot of time and work through it. So no, that's huge, man. And then like shifting over slightly, I know that when we was talking before, like the personal side is really important to you as well. Like so you're kind of known for appointment setting, like in the professional sense, but like when it comes to your personal side, like how has either played into the other? So like how has you becoming in the online world played into the professional life, and how has the professional personal life played into the online world?
Yeah. So I realized this is going to be another long answer. So just be prepared for
So
this.
I'm used to it. I'm
Um,
used to it.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad. And I'd say the personal side is like at first I was all about skills, 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 skills. I want to learn as much as I can. When I started at Sales Sniper, I wanted to develop so much, be super proactive. It was good that I was showing the traits, but the reality was, as a human being, I was unknown, right? Like,
Mm,
who is Taylor though? That was the big question that I couldn't answer confidently at all. Even now, I'm still figuring out the best answer, but I can answer it a lot better than what I used to. And that's because when you are so focused on just skills, that you don't
mm,
develop who you are. So what I found is developing myself outside of sales. Like I am absolutely obsessed with football, soccer. Sorry for any of you US folks that are watching, but yeah, football. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love playing it. I think about it every single day. And no, I absolutely love playing it. Played it at a high level before, and I just thought, right, well, I'd like the gym, but I don't enjoy it so much. I don't think it's enjoyable to go to the gym. I want to, obviously be consistent with it, but I started playing for a football team, and doing that was like the biggest thing for me mentally, right? Where
mm,
I could not ever think about sales development, my wife, my life. I can just think about football. And ever since I did that on a Tuesday and a Sunday, like that changed everything for me as far as mentally feeling calm on the calls. I'm feeling fulfilled as well about my lifestyle. So I think just doing everything outside of your life in a way that you're fulfilled with is very important. I'm
mm,
a big foodie. Luckily, you can't see my lower part because I have gained a little bit of weight in the last year, I'll be honest.
mm,
But yeah, I love my food. So going out to eat with my missus is something that I really do love to do. It's something that I want to do regularly as well. So just figuring out all of these personal lifestyle choices where I feel fulfilled helps me massively in sales.
mm,
Um, but I know we spoke about this just before the call, but another thing that really helped me is my relationship with God. Before say before God, I was all about money, 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 big business. Like that was my life purpose. That was my God, was
Mm.
money, success. A lot of people's God is nowadays, unfortunately. But I think ever since becoming a Muslim, back in June 2021, that's kind of when I started in the space, and I had not only a skill set journey, a sales journey, but a personal journey. And
Yeah.
I'm in my third Ramadan currently experiencing this, and it's been like I can't even begin to describe it. Right, praying 2.5 hours a day for the last 25 days, and feeling so close to God, like it's a feeling that you can't really describe, to be
Mm.
honest. And it's one of those where you feel, no matter how bad things get, you feel comfortable with things, no matter what happens, how difficult life gets, because you realize this life doesn't it actually doesn't offer as much as people make it out to be, I think sometimes. So that sounds quite deep, but like knowing what's happening afterwards and having that clarity, it's like absolutely game changing. So
Yeah.
that's what I would employ any of you to do if you've like been atheist like myself, is ask those deeper questions like why are we here? Where are we going?
Mm.
And more about who we are really and what's beyond us, right? Like asking those deeper questions.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, the more you get clarity on that, that helps you inside of sales. Just who you are as a human being. That's like, yeah, the most important thing. So yeah, so sports, God, and food. Yeah.
That sounds like a good night, right?
Yeah,
No,
that's it, mate.
it's
Chilling.
good. That's interesting. I want to touch on a couple of those. Like first, like taking like two steps back, the sport side. I've it seems to me a lot of people in sales, in online sales specifically, have a history of some form of sports. And I don't know if it's just the competitive side that like it moves and it's like a performance based or but what like I don't know if that's something you've seen as well or you feel, but how does the sports side play into the professional side for you? Like is it just it's a good release, like you mentioned, obviously that's important and it's a good place to go, or do you feel like you learned things when you were in sports that you've kind of gone, oh, that's the same here actually, or how does that relationship sync up for you?
Well, I think sports, it exposes the raw person. It exposes the dark side, right? That's what sports
Right.
does to people, right? And for some people that are not sports minded, of course, there's not that natural drive or they don't care about performance,
Mm.
right? For some people, it might be totally different with their prerogatives. And that's why you don't, that's why there's so many people outside of sales. Performance isn't like the big driver for them. But for people that are like, hugely sports minded like myself, there's something addictive about winning, about achieving things, about doing things good. And to our detriment, we don't always celebrate the achievements at all. We just want more. We just want more. I know that's for myself. Um, but like it's just an addictive feeling is to win and to I think live. I mean, sitting on a computer having calls with people isn't living life on the edge, right? I think that's definitely not what I'm saying. But when you're living life without, like, I guess that's security, and there's something to chase and something to run away from. It's
Mm.
it's it's sometimes that thrill of doing it and then achieving something to fulfill an insecurity. I think oftentimes I find
Mm.
salespeople we are the most insecure because we really, want to fulfill the role of significance and really want to fulfill a lot of these human needs that we have.
Yeah.
And I know for me, significance is a huge thing at this stage of my career, but also the feeling of contribution is one of the biggest things as well. So there's so many factors, but I think we're so like emotionally driven as salespeople, where it's just one of those things. It's almost inbuilt in us to want to do more, to perform, to do that daily hustle, and to learn. So
Yeah.
yeah, sports plays like a massive part into that for sure
Yeah.
because it just exposes who you are really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never thought of it that way about the exposing side and that it kind of it plays that role in it. So that's interesting. And then obviously jumping back to kind of like God and the religious side and all that side of things. Do you feel that because obviously, I mean, the timing's interesting, right? That you it was the same sort of time as you got into this sort of industry, and and it was kind of like a big. I mean, that those two things alone would be like momentous moments of your life, right? Getting into a whole new industry and learning a whole new skill set, and jumping into a whole new religion and a whole new belief system is kind of. But to take them on at the same time, I mean, is pretty
Well, no,
impressive,
it's
you know.
it was not only that, but also like my relationship with myself was really damaged. Like I felt like I
Mm,
hadn't really developed that properly, and I hired a mentor who actually offered, and his name's Drake, really really good guy. He helped me for free with a lot of my stuff. Like he would, any mentor would have charged thousands, but he just offered to help me out,
wow.
and that like because I was going through lots of different mental issues, the doubts that I had, and that was, and obviously the relationship with God kept me going to at least get past it and keep going, rather than just settle back into a job and just settle for, just being mediocre in the job.
Mm,
So, um, yeah, like it was definitely a lot, but it's one of those things that suffering's where the gold happens, isn't it? Right? You have to suffer, you have to go through a lot of difficulty to figure out obviously who you are, develop yourself, and oftentimes it does bring you closer to God when you do suffer. It's like there's a quote in the Quran. Now I don't know the exact quote, so I'm not a verse guy that knows everything off by heart, but it's the person who is loved the most by God is those that suffer the
mm,
most. Right. For example, if somebody's put in a really difficult financial position, it's oftentimes as you're being tested for that reason, see if it either brings you away from God and you blame him and you hate him, or it brings you closer because you're grateful that you've still got everything else. Because
right.
we've got millions of things to be grateful for, but for things to not be grateful for, we can count that on our hands, to be honest. It's not that much.
Mm,
So it's one of
right.
those things, it's just a reminder. If we're put in hardship, it brings you back to God. Sometimes when things go well, you can kind of go, oh, it was me, like I did all this, but it wasn't you.
Yeah.
Like you were given the ability to do it. You could have like passed out and got a heart attack that second ago, but your heart was still kept going.
Mm,
But you don't know who that was kept going by. So
yeah.
it's just a reminder to think outside of yourself, really. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm always reminding myself of each day. And um,
Mm,
yeah, like praying 5 times a day obviously does massively help with that too as a reminder.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's
yeah,
good. It's good. It kind of plays into the not like the routine side, but as in, you whatever you focus on and whatever you build out lasts, right? And that's kind of what I imagine, like the 5 times a day and things like that. It's not just for the sake of it, right? It's the more that you do that, it builds a longevity to it rather than it just becoming something in the background. So,
yeah.
it's an impressive thing. You also you brought up before about having like people being money driven, but now your values are more obviously God driven. And I heard a quote the other day. I believe I believe it was someone who was also quoting someone else, and I think that someone else was Alex Hormozy, right? As it always is in our industry. But he said something along the lines of, "You've already got, you've already hit the goals that you once said would have made you happy." And I quite like that idea, and within this context, because basically what he's saying is by keep saying you're going to hit this, like let's say 20K a month, like is a lot of the closers now, right? Everyone wants to hit 20K a month. They want,
Yeah.
and it's like you already hit goals that you said when I hit that I'm going to be happy, and you're still not happy. When are you going to do the things that actually connect with you? And I think I may be reading it wrong, but I feel like that's what you've kind of alluded to with your journey is that relationship with God is more that side. It's hitting those goals now, so you don't have to, oh, when I get to this level, I'll be happy. You still push because you still want to win and you still want to get there, but the outcome is different, right? Is that would that be fair to say? Is that like something that's helped you as you're going through this kind of journey in this sales industry?
Yeah, I would say so. As far as like the day to day, just keeping me happy. I think, but happiness is I think it's an impossible goal to attain. If we talk about 100% happiness day to day, we're not, right? Like I think
Mm.
what I'm looking for is certainty and peace. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And at the time I was lost. I didn't, I met my wife. She was Muslim, and I didn't think that I would ever become Muslim. I thought like,
Mm.
these people are just like, Arabs. Of course, everybody talks about like planes flying into buildings. I'm going a bit deep there. That's what people think when it comes to Islam. So I thought that's not going to be me. But the
Yeah.
more I understood it and educated myself about it, I thought, oh, this is unbelievable. This is like I felt I found the answer as I criticized it more. I asked questions to imams who are like basically priests, but like the
Right.
Islam version, right? So like the more I learned about it, it just made sense. And that peace and certainty, you could offer me Jeff Bezos's wealth, what's the name, Bill Gates' wealth. You can offer me everybody's wealth in the world. I would literally push that away and keep my faith. Like, I
Yeah.
who cares about money? I think a lot of people are pretty much slaves to money. But obviously,
Mhm.
on the other hand, you can become almost like not caring about money at all, which is on the other occasion you don't want to do that, of course. But like this worldly life, as I would put it, is just a pastime. It's just a way to keep you busy, keep you distracted.
Mm.
So I'm just doing my best to, do things that obviously make me happy in the meantime, have my inner peace, but at the same time, I'm preparing for what's coming next.
Mm.
That's what I'm trying to do,
That's
basically.
interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Very interesting. I think I love these sort of conversations. So I don't know if you know Marco and Wesley. They run another podcast called The
Yes.
Process, right? And we've been on each other's
Right.
podcasts now, and we obviously they're a lot more into like stoicism and like that side of
Of
things.
course. Yeah.
But I love this whole context, this whole conversation of anything around this because I feel like there's so much in each section that you can learn from, regardless of if you're in it or not. I think
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly. Yeah.
there's truths in it in different ones, and you've ultimately got to decide which is the truth you believe in. But I love hearing the different takes from it because until you talk to someone who's involved in it, you don't know, like you said, you only know what you're told, right? So it's interesting hearing your kind of relationship and seeing it online. I've seen your journey a little bit with what you post as well, and it does feel like a very interesting journey that you're on there. Um, but not to talk about myself too much, but I end up doing it anyway. But one thing that you said there really was interesting because you said you're looking for peace and certainty. And
Yeah.
I did. I was coached by someone a couple of years ago, Jimmy, amazing guy, and he's really into like values and belief systems and things like that, like
Is that
mindset
Jimmy
wise.
Reese Hopkins by any
It
chance?
is,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
coached by him as well about a year
There
ago.
you go. So yeah, I
Good
love
guy.
him. I love working with Jimmy. He's a great guy. But I'll never forget one of the first things he said when we did the values thing. We did like core values and all that side, and my top one was peace, right? And then I
I
think my
think we did
second
the
one
same. We did the same program. I think. Yeah,
probably
I
did,
remember it.
right? Probably did. So peace, but then mine was creativity, right? And he looked at me and he
Okay.
went, "You probably shouldn't be in sales then." And I was like, "Fair enough." But it was more the fact of peace, like the boat, like I can definitely associate with that, and that journey looking
Why
for
did you
that.
put peace first? If you don't mind
Yeah,
sharing, I'd like to know why.
because I realized happiness is a choice, not a destination. So why was I chasing it? And I have a lot of like not to give labels and things, but like ADHD, depression, things like that, right? And what that means is there's a lot of noises going on, like a lot of thought processes and connections
Same.
and
I'm
all
in my
that,
head
right?
pretty much 90% of the
Yeah.
time, so I hear that
Yeah.
100%.
So then when you have that moment of peace, you're like, is this what it's actually about? So that was it for me, I think. And I was like, if I could feel that, I would feel like whatever happens outside of this, I'm fine. I think that's where it
Yeah.
kind of came from for me. I don't know, but if that was similar for you, or how did you come to that sort of conclusion?
Yeah. So just thinking, because with me, I always wanted a leader, somebody to look up to.
Mhm.
I couldn't rely on myself. Like that's what I struggle with because as people, I think oftentimes people put so much reliance on themselves and it's unbearable. As human beings, we're all weak. Like
Mhm.
yes, we can be the strongest we can be, but as a species, we are actually a lot weaker than we think.
Mhm.
So we always need that person to look up to lead us. And so I was always relying on people, but I realized as people, we're actually quite useless. We're not 100%. We have ups and downs. That's the nature of who we are. So I thought, if I can't rely on people, like what about if God did actually exist? And I thought, okay, well, I'll think about it. I'll like start asking questions about it. And because I studied philosophy at A level and GCSE here in
Okay.
the UK, so I was always thinking. I'm like, I remember asking my football coach about what the meaning of life was. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out when I was like 18, 19, like
Yeah.
these kind of conversations. He looked at me like a weirdo. Like, mate, just play football. Like, why are you asking questions like that? I was like, I just want to figure it out. Like, I just want to figure out the meaning. I want to find the truth, right? That's
Yeah.
like the way I am. And so, like, just the more I dove in, the more I dove in about it, like, the answers that I was getting naturally brought me that peace. But that's because I was constantly asking. I was open minded. I didn't let my preconceived ideas cloud my judgment on truly understanding what it is. Because if
Yeah.
I let those happen, I would not be Muslim. I would just think that they're just like Arabs that just pray 5 times a day and they fast when you shouldn't do that, right? That was my that was honestly my views.
Right.
But just yeah, just like usually a lot of the times we're looking at things dead in the face, but we're not seeing it because of our judgments. So
Yeah.
I just employ people to just be open minded at least, and
Yeah.
that was what I was going to say. Like if it's not something that I align with, I won't follow it. I wouldn't have married my wife. But the more I learned about it, I thought, well, she's hooked me here. It just makes sense. So at that
Interesting.
point, yeah, it's just totally just submitted into it.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, no, I like that side of things because I think there's a lot more to everything. And I think these sort of conversations and these sort of views challenge you in different ways that you wouldn't challenge yourself because you don't need to challenge yourself if you're not thinking about it. You just carry on and life just carries on as it's always gone on, right? But as soon as you start to look from like a 30,000 foot view of your life in a different context, and you're like, well, actually, what if there is this and what if that? That's I actually I told you earlier I did an episode with Adam before our one, and I mentioned a book in there, but I'll mention it again to you because it's called A More Beautiful Question, and he proposes a three way. It's why, what if, and then how. But I think it's that what if is what hooks people into that next level, right? So you kind of go like, what's the meaning of life, which would be like a
Absolutely.
why question and all that. But then it's like, well, what if there was this? What if that? And I think that expands your view. Whether or not you then carry on is dependent on your answer to that question, right? What if there is a God? Nah. And then you're like, okay, I won't even think about it. But if you go, what if there is a God? And you're like, this person's given me a good idea of what that could look like. I'll walk down there and see where it goes. So I think it's interesting. I think, do you have you got a couple more minutes, by the way? I know we've kind of gone over the
I definitely have. Yeah,
yeah.
listen, I'm hooked now, so you've got me forever.
Okay. All right, let's keep going for a little bit. How would you say, or would you even say that the I don't know, calling it religious side, theology side, whatever you want to call it, right? But that part of your life, has that played a role in how you would do your sales position? And because I want to link it a little bit, right? Has that played a role in how you perceive other people on the other end of your conversation?
Okay, so when you say like perceive people, it's like I look at them through my lens of Islam, how I would treat them, things like that, or like how do you mean?
Yeah. So if we just look at like without taking into consideration anything else other than I want to make more money, I want to make myself happy, you're going to
Of
enter a
course.
sales conversation in a certain way, right? When you have an external view as well, so it's now not only your end goal is playing a role, but whatever belief system. I'm not too familiar with Islam, but I was raised Christian, so
Oh, I see. Yeah,
there's kind of like similarities, right? Let's call it. So I would
yeah,
also
definitely.
have that. I would have that, but all people should be loved type of view. Let's call it that. So not
Yeah,
only am I going on with my current goal of let's make a sale, but you also kind of have that link of, but this is another human. They're valuable. They're this side. Do you feel? Do you feel that that dictates some of the ways that you handle certain conversations at all, or do you think it doesn't play a role, at all? Or what's your kind of take on that?
yeah. I think, and I'm gonna put this to atheists as well, but I think God rules a lot of the way that we communicate and do things in sales, like totally. Unless you come from a place of ego and you're just focused on making the sale, if
Mm.
you lead from your heart, you're following a lot of the principles that God has taught and sent to thousands of messengers over many years,
Mm.
right? So like for me, like it's a huge part. The thing is, yes, there is sometimes a sale that can be made, and yes, it's beneficial for me, and it's a blessing that that sale is made, and it gives me sustenance for me and my family. That's great. That is a blessing from God. but it's never a blessing if it's done for personal reasons, and it really does not benefit the other person. And
Mm.
so that there is plenty of verses in Islam that talk about like how you deal with people in the marketplace, like how you should be
Right.
with people, but being honest, transparent. There was something about, and I read it recently because I've been reading the Quran each day about if you because there's people in market that like weigh food, right? If a person wants to buy a kilo of potatoes, you make sure you charge them for a kilo of potatoes. If it's a kilo and a gram more, you have been dishonest to that person, and you've,
Mm.
let's say, like you've overcharged them when they were only paying for a kilo.
Right.
So in any of your business dealings, it has to be done in a way that is super ethical, it's honest, and it's true to what you've set out and your expectations. So I always look at, because yes, we can be accountable to people, but when it comes to us by ourselves, we can do whatever bad things we want to do. It is God that is watching at the end of the day. So
Mm.
if I do something bad, that is a deed that's put in on the bad side of the list. So for me, I'm always thinking, right. And don't get me wrong, I'm human. Sometimes I get in my own way, and I'm not always 100% on it. That is me sometimes. But when I'm on it, like it's yeah, like I've got to do the right thing by God as well as others, right? Like I'm being watched, so it's that level of accountability that like that 24/7 CCTV that's happening all the time. So yeah, it's everything for me, and it's the reason why I choose companies. Like I had a guy who was wanting some consulting for DM closing. It happened a few weeks ago. Definitely not going to name names, but the guy asked for me to help, and I figured out that the industry was in sports betting, helping
Right.
people with like making it wasn't directly for betting, but people can make affiliate commissions for recommending sports betting companies. And
Right.
obviously, betting for us, anything like that
Mm.
it's haram, right? It's not permissible. So I had to reject that opportunity. Yes, I could have made some money, and it would have been a nice client to bring on board, and it would have brought testimonials, potentially more opportunities. But
Yeah.
um, the blessing was in rejecting it. I felt, and I like going by my core values, because at the end of the day, when I messaged, listen, I can't because I don't believe in sports betting. The guy was like, listen, I'll recommend you people because that is very integral what you've just done. So that's
There you go.
already made my brand. That's a side effect. Right? I'm not saying that was the pure reason for it, but doing the right thing is what will
Mm.
often lead in better outcomes in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Like taking the route that you believe is right regardless of it, and then it'll pay dividends in the long run, right? But that's also again like it's not the reason you do it, but it's a nice add-on to the fact that you will do it and
Side
it still pay
effect,
off, right? Yeah.
exactly. And it's
Yeah.
ingrained in all of us. Like Islam aside, let's put religion aside for a moment. We all know the right and wrong things to do. It's ingrained
Yeah.
in us. We're built
Yeah.
that way. But the only thing that puts us off is like, we can call it the devil, the ego. We call it shaitan, right? Like it's that will always throw us off that path and
Mm.
do things that are away from our true, like our good nature,
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the main thing.
I remember a post you put up actually as we've been talking. You posed the question. I don't know if it was to end up anywhere, so you may have carried on with it, but I remember the question was when people do payment plans on an offer, should there be interest added on?
I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking you'd say about that.
That's an
Yes.
interesting one. I like because I go back and forth, right, on what I think is right and not right, and and that side. But I always thought that was, I always find it interesting as well, just to pose a question like that, and you saw it in your comments, I'm sure. It's enough just to rock the
It blew
boat,
up.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
you're not even saying like they shouldn't, you're just saying, should we? And that's enough to just throw a lot of people off the thing. But yeah, that was
Yes.
interesting. So that did you kind of, I guess, have you come to a conclusion on whether you feel that's like okay ethically or
Yeah, I already knew it before I posted it. Like, I
you
just
did?
wanted to pose the question. I think people could tell that I didn't like the interest. So
Yeah.
I'll explain that. So I think you was just about to say what the post was, but the post was basically saying, charging extra for payment plans is wrong. Thoughts? Question mark. Right. That
That's
was,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and the reason why I said that is, well, there's many factors, right? If you are doing payment plans, of course, you vet the person heavily up front to make sure affordability is there,
Mm.
right? And I would never, giving payment terms above 3 months is a very risky thing to do, and it may be likely that somebody may not be able to make a payment if it's longer than
Mm.
3 months. So of course, it's the upfront work that you can do to prevent that from happening, missed payments.
Yeah.
But the reason why is it comes from the Islamic principle that it protects the person that is more vulnerable, right?
Right.
Because oftentimes, as a business owner, it hurts if there's not a payment made. There may be fees involved, there may be losses on our end. For the business, it hurts. But for
Yeah.
the person that's penalized for getting the same product as someone who can get it as wealthy, it's like it's disadvantaging the person who's less well off.
Yeah.
And that's what I find is unethical about it. However, I understand that yes, if you just let everybody come in, you're doing a wrong business practice. You, like I said
Yeah.
about the heavily betting, it just means that poor person should not have that product,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But I think no matter what, everybody should be charged equally for that product. Based on the fact that they can afford it, it makes sense. You've gone through all of the terms, the upfront work is done. So
Hmm.
that's my view. And the reason why, of course, it's yeah, the business owners base it on like the insurance policy of if they can't if they can't make the payments or whatever. But in insurance, that's something we don't believe in either because
Right.
you're paying extra for an uncertainty. It could happen, but you're putting money into something that's definitely not for sure.
Yeah.
So that's like something that's quite big for us.
It's
But
interesting.
understandably, like I'm part of a system where I need car insurance, so of course I have to pay for that, and tax as well, which is I guess a form of it for different things. So
Mhm.
we're quite lenient. I think people look at Islam like you must do this, you must do that, but we're very it's an easy religion. It really
Mm.
is, and I think that's what people overcomplicate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
the
interesting.
very long answer for that as
Yeah.
well.
No, that's good. I like it because I like anything, to be honest, I like anything that challenges anything. Like that I enjoy devil's advocate. I enjoy going, what if this, like you said, like, or
Absolutely.
just like, I don't agree with this. Like, do you and figuring that out because too much is just always the way it is. It's like, oh, this is just what you do. And you're like, yeah, but why?
How can
Like,
you get to the truth of the matter if you don't challenge opinions, you don't challenge
yeah,
thoughts? Because at the same time, you might be right from the challenge, but also you may be wrong from the challenge, but you've learned something, you've got the truth. And that's
yeah.
why I always want to have deep conversations. I try it with my family who are not Muslim. And my dad's like,
Okay.
oh, this is hypothetical. It's like, well, you were very certain that it's hypothetical. Can you prove that? And then we get into debates about it. And it's beautiful. My parents don't like getting into those conversations, but I do. I could do it
Yeah.
for hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd sit with me for too long if we had those conversations. So yeah,
No, I
that's it
love
as
it.
we're doing now.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love those sort of conversations. That's what that's what I really enjoy. And I think there's too much, in my opinion, there's too much certainty in like practices that aren't certain or aren't truth, but that they told they are, especially in the sales industry. I think the sales, like I talk bad about the sales industry, even though it's my whole livelihood, but I don't, it really, what I see sales as is because it's so, especially our industry, it's so tight knit, it's its own
Yeah.
ecosystem, but it's an exact replica of the wider scale, right? Like it just is. Everything that happens in our industry just happens like 5 times quicker. So you see it real time, but it's the same everywhere else, right? Like the way we sell, the way we market, it's the same. It's just we've learned quicker, and so it happens.
Well, I'd say it's much like sports in that in this industry, you
Mm.
are more exposed than you are, let's say, in going to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I could have a corporate SDR role or a corporate AE role, maybe
Yeah.
having a high base and yeah, I'd have a lot of security, but the enjoyment from this space and the thrills of this space and what can come from it, it's like that sometimes.
Mhm.
And yes, it's hard to know about once you're in it. You think you've got to be in it to really truly understand it.
Yeah, yeah. But it's also good to look outside of it, isn't it? And go, what is other people doing that we can bring into it and kind of look
Yeah,
and go through.
100%.
But no, it's good. Well, I think we'll leave it there for today, Taylor, just because I really want to honor your time. And then
It'll
also,
really trail off, so it's fair
yeah,
enough.
we
Yeah.
we could probably carry this conversation on for hours, I'm sure, and we probably will. Maybe we'll do this again. But
Hopefully.
I really appreciate your time and your insights on this one. And again, for trusting your time with me because also this is all kind of still brand new and still growing, and it's a lot to time is the one thing you can't get back, right? So I really do honor anyone that comes on, and I really appreciate you. Um,
Appreciate you for having me.
do you want to do a quick shout out where people can find you? And then we can plug that in as well in the description. Like where can they get more information from your course or from just you or whatever?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the process of revamping my website. So hopefully by the time of uploads, you'll be able to put the website in and it's got all my details and products about me, what I'm doing. But my YouTube channel is live. I've not posted for the last week and a half, but I've just filmed a new bunch of videos. So those are coming out very soon. Yeah, all appointment setting content. I'm actually doing my own podcasts as well.
Great.
We'll have people like yourself on, other setters, people that are doing well. So I'm going to be sharing a bunch of tips there, insights, skill set, parts as well. So if you search High Ticket Tay, that's my YouTube channel. And of
Great.
course, yeah, there'll probably be a link somewhere. So follow me there. And then a link to my Facebook. I'm always active there. Just add me as a friend and make sure that your message to me is not like a spammer, and then I'll actually reply.
Don't use
Yeah,
ChatGPT,
that's
right?
no, exactly. No chat CBT messages, otherwise you're getting them on blocked paths, I'd say. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, yeah, I'll put those links on as well in the description and things. But yeah, hopefully you'll get some people reach out, because I know that you're they're in good hands if they come to you for getting in the industry. And there's a few people that I'll be referring to you for sure that have been asking. So, yeah, man. But again, appreciate your time. Really appreciate you jumping on. And yeah, let's do this again.
Thank you for having me. Speak to you soon.
Nice one.